Hey everybody, what's going on? Today we're going to talk about female weight gain after menopause. Female aging and weight gain. You may think, well, the two go hand in hand. As we get older, we just gain weight. There are reasons why both men and women gain weight as they progress through their age, and the main driving factor in that is going to be hormones. Mainly estradiol in women and testosterone in men. In today's video, I want to discuss more about the female side. So starting this video out, I want to make sure that I let you guys know a few important statistics. In the US, roughly 30% of all women over the age of 50 are either overweight or obese. The other statistic is that roughly 60% of all adults in the United States of America do not exercise or don't exercise enough. These two things can have a big impact on your metabolism, your body structure as you age. So with those two statistics in mind, obviously it would be ideal if as you are approaching this menopausal state to make sure you're already exercising and treating your body in a way that is healthy. Okay? Now, when does menopause typically occur? In most women, between the ages of 40 and 55, 51 years old being the average amongst women in the United States. So for females, going into this menopausal state, being already healthy can definitely help you avoid some of the complications that typically occur as we age, such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and these are obviously things we want to try to stay away from. So living a healthy lifestyle will surely help that. Now, one of the questions that was asked was by Karina Nielsen, and she asked, what happens to our metabolism as we age? Does it slow down? And yeah, the metabolism does slow down as we age. In a perfect world, everybody would live in this optimized metabolic state, and not so many people would be going through their lives in a starvation state. So as we age, as females will go through menopause, men's testosterone levels will drop. Typically this leads to more inactivity. And due to the inactivity, we can actually start to see muscle loss, which is very apparent in most people over 50 years old. Unless you are just addicted to the gym. I've seen some amazing physiques around the 50-year-old point, and I think more so than not, it's just the simple fact of when your hormone levels are adjusted, going through menopause or having a reduction in testosterone, you just become more lackadaisical and you don't want to go to the gym, you don't want to do things, you would prefer to just sit down and not do anything. And this is, in my opinion, is probably the worst thing that you could do for your overall health as you progress through age. Now obviously I haven't been there yet, I'm only 30 years old. However, I can assure you that the passion that I have for weightlifting, I will hopefully continue on with that for as long as I can. Keeping sure that you're able to consistently lift weights will help you maintain more of your muscle mass. Now, more importantly though, it will help you maintain most of your bone density. Now, a lot of elderly people will have joint issues, bone issues, fall, broken hips and all of that, and most of the time that's just because the bones are weak. If you have a higher bone density as you progress into being older, you have less chance of injuring yourself doing something simple like falling. Let's move on to the board here. So in regards to the estradiol in amounts in women, what is estrogen? Well, estrogen is the driving hormone in females. It is essentially what makes a female a female. So once you start to go through puberty, estrogen levels are becoming elevated and essentially making a girl a woman. Okay, so let's say for instance over here, the average amount of estradiol in a woman within healthy range is anywhere between, let's say, 30 and I believe 125-ish picograms per milliliter. Okay, so let's say for instance the average is roughly going to be like, let's say 80 to 90. Let's just call it right there. Okay, now that's going to be the average for most adult women as they're going through their adult lives. Now, obviously in women, there are a lot of fluctuations that occur. So your monthly cycle, the birth of a child, depending on how athletic you are, if by chance you are super athletic, very low body fat, we actually see we can see a reduction in estradiol as well. Typically among like high caliber athletes who maintain a very low body composition or a very low body fat point, you typically see a little bit lower estradiol in them. However, there are fluctuations that occur in females, you know, throughout their adult lives until they hit kind of that perimenopausal state, which typically occurs between like 40 and 55. Now, obviously, this range here of the adult life of a female, I mean, that could be 20 to 30 years. So we're talking a long time. Now, the average age for menopause in women is 51. So typically around like 45 to 50, we start to see that reduction in estradiol, and usually you are completely into menopause, you know, going through the menopausal state at roughly 50 to 55 years old. Now, the question essentially was, what's the correlation between weight gain and menopause? And pretty much what it is just that as your estradiol levels drop off from age, you know, 45, 50, 55, is that you just become more lackadaisical. You stop wanting to get out and exercise and do active things just because your energy levels typically drop, and it's just due to the lack of inactivity, or the lack of activity rather. So what we have here, pretty much the reduction causes a reduction in exercise and typically a reduction in food, and the reduction in exercise and reduction in food leads to a reduction in muscle mass. So Karina had a great question about what happens to our metabolisms as we age, and I think this is the answer to that question. When you enter into menopause, we have reduced exercise, so reduced weight training. Okay, now we all know that weight training is very beneficial in maintaining muscle mass, even during times of caloric restriction. Decreased food, because you are essentially gaining body fat due to your inactivity, so you reduce food further, which suppresses the metabolic rate, as we all know. And then, because of the reduced exercise and the reduced food, now we have reductions in muscle mass. And that is a recipe for a reduced metabolic rate. Now, as we're going through these hormonal shifts, what we see is that you're inactive, okay, and your hormones aren't the way that they used to be. So now, if you want to try to lose weight, you have to become more aggressive than you were before. So now you have to do more because you've lost muscle mass. Your engine, so your metabolic rate, your engine, is not as big as it was when you were lifting weights and making sure you ate enough at 40. Now we're somewhere down here, and your engine is smaller and requires less to function. So during this state here, we just really want to make sure that you are staying in the gym, you're trying to be healthy, trying to be conscious of what you're eating, and maintaining a relatively low body fat set point. The more body fat you have when you enter into this phase, typically is when we start to see increased signs of things like type 1, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, and all of those things. Again, and all of those things can be, I guess, held off by just the simple act of exercise. Adrian had a great question about weight gain in women, especially around the abdominal region as they go through menopause. Now, usually fat gain is more of a genetic predisposition. So you'll notice that in most women, as they age, certain women will carry adipose tissue in certain areas. It's not always the stomach. Sometimes it's the back of the arms. Sometimes it's like the bottom of the glutes, the legs, the hips, the buttocks, the abdomen, love handle region. It depends by person, but the downward shift in hormones can definitely make it much easier for you to store body fat in your midsection. And that is the area in which we really want to try to avoid storing too much body fat as we age. So something I really wanted to make sure I talked about was actually a question from Adrienne Lemansky, who is a registered dietitian on our team. And her question was about storing body fat in the abdominal region and things like that, and this has something similar to do with that. So pretty much what you want to make sure is that you're entering this menopausal state being as fit as possible to avoid any of the health risks that can come with having more body fat as you go through it. So mainly, exercise can improve insulin resistance. Now, what is insulin resistance and diabetes? How are those correlated? So diabetes typically comes about by having too much of something that's not being utilized in your body. So if you eat way too many carbohydrates, or you're spiking your blood sugar way too frequently, you're transitioning yourself from being insulin sensitive into being insulin resistant. Okay, and exercise can actually help improve that insulin resistance. Eating super low calories is not going to help you throughout this menopausal phase. It would be ideal, and in a perfect world, everybody would live in this metabolically optimized state. But I would always recommend against a cookie cutter diet plan. I would always urge you to figure out what your metabolism can hold, what your metabolism can withstand, and how much you should be eating, because that knowledge that you would gain simply by just tracking your macros could help you ultimately for the rest of your life. And as you age, yes, it may be more beneficial to start to reduce those carbohydrates. As estradiol drops, as testosterone drops, reducing some of those carbohydrates may be more beneficial than continuously loading as you get into your 50s and 55, 60 years old. So I hope that this video helped, guys. Adrienne and Karina, I hope this helped cleared up some of your questions. Again, I want to thank you guys very much for watching this video, and please, comment on it, like it, let me know what you thought. All right, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Let's make it a good one. See ya.